Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be drawing one of my very old OCs that I haven't drawn in ages. So I'm bringing her back and also practicing clothing. So grab yourself a drink or meal while you watch, or maybe sketch along with me. Even though I've taken her out of the context in which she lives in, which is this sort of sci-fi fantasy world that mostly takes place in space, I think she would actually wear this at some point. Her name is Gwyneth, or Gwyn for short. She's this very girly, enthusiastic character that also lives in the same universe as Dina and Zara, who I've talked about in previous videos. I envisioned her to have a much more girly pink fashion. Actually, I got a lot of inspiration for this character from Allura and Rommel from Voltron, because back when I made her, I loved that show so much. And Rommel and Allura were my favorite characters, aside from Prince Lotor. I drew those three so often back when I was a hardcore fan. Maybe I should revisit it and make fan art when I get into a creative slump. So, like in Voltron, Gwyn is this sort of space cadet who travels to space and ends up meeting her hero Zara, who at this point in the storyline is a pretty reluctant hero because, due to a big plot twist, which I'm not ready to mention in this video, I have a future video to make about another OC, and that plot twist ties into that character's story much better. Nonetheless, she forms a bond with Zara in a similar way to Ellie and Joel from The Last of Us. We've got this teenager or preteen who is always up in the adult's business and cracks jokes and generally brightens up the grumpy adult's life, because Zara is technically a good 150 years old at this point in the story, but she looks more like a woman in her 40s for the sake of an able-bodied hero who can still kick ass, while Gwyneth is about 17. Lately I've been drawing a lot of clothing because it's something I have barely ever practiced. Nowhere near as much as I should, honestly, but I think using references off of Pinterest and getting inspired by other artists and my favorite mangakas is a really good way to grow as an artist. I'm drawing a lot more modern clothing because honestly I have no idea where to start with more elaborate or fantasy-inspired clothing. Okay, now unrelated to the drawing or character in the video, but I rediscovered some old markers I had from my early teens. A lot of Spectrum Noir and other random markers that I bought when I was obsessed with Copic markers, but I can never find them in any store. Anyways, I've never actually seen Copic markers in any local stores, even now, let alone 2018. But anyways, the markers are still in really good condition. I'm thinking of getting another Ohuhu bamboo organizer to store them all. I'll see how often I reach for them, because they're currently stored in a bag, but if I notice I'm using them more often, then I'll get a proper organizer for them. Maybe in the next video, I'll just spend the entire time using them. Maybe as an ASMR, swatching and coloring video, because sometimes I just don't really feel like voice recording my videos. Actually, that's why this video is coming out a little later than usual. I'm sorry about that. But I just dread making the voice recordings. I don't know why. I think that my videos would be too boring to watch with no voice recordings, but at the same time, the quality of them isn't as I wish it was. Even though I've had comments saying they enjoyed listening to me, which means a lot to me. If you've ever commented that, genuinely, thank you so much. But sometimes I just get into slumps with scripting and actually recording them. It's not often that getting the art footage is the problem. I could probably record hours upon hours of footage, editing it, adding music to the background, doing all these other stuff. It's fine. But voice recording, not my strong suit. One thing I want to try soon is, instead of doing the line art first, is to color and then do line art with a colored pencil instead of ink, which might be very hard to do because of the more fine detailing, especially with hair. But generally I do prefer more gritty, I guess, more sketchy and blended into the coloring, because that's just what suits my art style more, I think. The ink line art seems to be bold, yet it's what I do every single time. I thought brown ink line art, or sepia, whatever, would fix my issue, but it didn't, and I was in denial about it for so long, but yeah, next time I think that's what I'll do. If you've seen my latest sketchbook tour, you've seen how I drew the Wallace and Gromit fan art, and that was done with like 99% colored pencil line art, and I realized how cohesive and fun it is to do it, and the final product is much more satisfying to look at instead of, ink line art, which, I don't know, it just looks like a coloring book, and that's not what I want to aim for with my art. There's something off about this drawing. I swear it's the face. She's got this like uncanny valley smile and it's throwing me off a lot. But maybe that should be part of her character. Maybe she's like this weird, overly friendly kid. That's probably why she's hanging out with Zara instead of, kids her own age. Other 17-year-olds. No, she's got to hang out with the grumpy old lady in her mid-40s. Or technically 150s. But yeah, does she look 17? I don't know. Sometimes I struggle with, drawing characters and making them look their age, even if they're 17, 40, whatever the age is, especially children. I suck at drawing children. There's something really difficult about drawing them. But yeah, these are the colored pencils that I used for the shading. But then I switched back to my polychromos pencils because those have better variety. I don't know, I got the portrait set of the Castle colored pencils, but they just weren't working along with with the drawing. I don't know. So back to my trusty Faber-Castell pencils. You can never go wrong with them, I swear. And now onto the background. If it wasn't already obvious, I am allergic to drawing characters in actual context, so I decided, hey, there's a lack of pink for such a, pink bubbly character, so I decided I'm gonna draw some white peaches, because that's just the fruit that I associate with her, and I love drawing fruit. So I already got out of my comfort zone by drawing... There's a bug on my wall. Anyways, I already got out of my comfort zone by drawing clothes. So now it's time to draw something in my comfort zone. And I mostly colored these in with Ohuhu markers, but then I kind of gave up at some point. And it's funny because I was watching Gel Art's last video talking about how you should be really soft when you're coloring with colored pencils, and you should layer and this and that, and I was just aggressively coloring these peaches in with colored pencils, which is, I don't know, just a funny little detail. But I did really enjoy coloring these peaches. I've never drawn or colored peaches before, and the whole time that I was coloring them in, the Animal Crossing, the theme song was playing in my head, because I've been going through the Animal Crossing New Horizons brain rot once again, and I've just been playing that all of the time. I think it's like a ritual now. Once it hits 7 p.m, I'm playing Animal Crossing for between 1 to 2 hours at least, maybe even 3. I know it's a bit exaggerated, but it's what gets me through the evenings up until I go to sleep eventually. But yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!